There is a father, a very loving father. He has 10 children. 3 live in prosperity and the other 7 are living in poverty. The father taught them all the same lessons. He brought them all up the same way. They were taught to take care of each other and to make sure that all were taken care of. 3 children were dropped into a fortunate situation. They're in an environment that is comfortable, that's secure, that's full of opportunity. There's an abundance of food, actually food on every corner and an endless variety. There is shelter, there is peace, 0 conflict. There is access to the best medical care, there's hope. There's even extra, so much extra that a lot just goes to waste. These children have so much that they've forgotten about their brothers and sisters. They never even think of them, to be honest. Life is so good that they have become so fat and happy that they spend most time focusing on their life and their needs. Meanwhile, the other 7 were dropped into a not so fortunate situation. They are in an environment that is uncomfortable, it's insecure, it's full of conflict. There's no food, there's no shelter, there's no peace, there is no hope. These 7 children are actually starving to death and they don't even have clean water to drink. They have no access to medical care and are dying from treatable illnesses. They don't even know if they will survive the day because they have real problems that are a threat to everything they know. These children think of their brothers and sisters who are living in excess and wonder why they haven't come to help them, especially considering their father commanded them to look out and watch over them. Meanwhile, the father is watching all of this and grieves. He watches on and is burdened to see his 7 children starving to death while the other 3 children live in the lap of luxury with their eyes fixed on themselves. Their eyes fixed on the pursuit of more, selfishly living, not at all thinking about anyone else. The father has even commanded the 3 children to take care of the others, and it was made very clear. But there is no thought of the struggling siblings, but to try and appease the father. The well-off children, they send a small portion of their extra resources to check the box, just so they can say they did something. There's no sacrifice, there's no heart, there's no love. The giving, it's done begrudgingly because they have to, out of necessity, not out of joy. It is as if the 3 prosperous children have forgotten their brothers and sisters and have grown numb to what is really happening. So as the father watches on, his grief, it turns to anger. As his 3 prosperous children have turned a blind eye to their brothers and sisters because of their longing for comfort, that longing for security, those fleshly desires, as they sit in their gated communities and upgrade their cars and upgrade their homes and live beyond their means to fulfill their selfish desires, the father's wrath and judgment is building. The father is sick to his stomach as he watches this. How do you think this father is going to deal with this? I know how the father is going to deal with it. His wrath will come on the ones who didn't follow his commands. His judgment will come to those who got fat and lived lazy while the rest of the children suffered. His anger will be poured out on the ones who claim to be his children, but really just live for self. The father is God. The 3 prosperous children, they represent the lazy and the fat American church. The 7 children living in poverty, they represent the church all around the world who's struggling and pretty much forgotten. Forgotten by the ones who have the means to make a difference, yet spend their time focusing on career, the next promotion, their kids' sporting events, reality TV, the NFL, the NBA, politics. You fill in the blanks with whatever your obsession is. And this is the sad reality of the state of the American church. Now, are all American Christians this way? Absolutely not. Are most? Absolutely yes. We've become so desensitized to the reality of what is going on around the world. And as our sisters and brothers suffer, we lay up in luxury, in Disney World. And sadly, we pretend to care. And we justify our half-hearted effort when truly we should be ashamed. Ashamed that our hearts have become so hardened that we've fallen into this snare of Satan. He is laying around in relaxation mode when it comes to the American church because we are asleep. There's no need for him to stir up any spiritual activity or problems. We are lifeless. He has us right where he wants us. The scriptures are very clear about how to deal with the needy, how to deal with the poor, the less fortunate, how to deal with the widows. Leviticus 19 says, make provision for the poor. Deuteronomy 15 says, help the poor among your fellow Israelites. Psalm 82 says, uphold the cause of the poor. Psalm 140 says, the Lord, he secures justice. Proverbs 14 says, be kind to the needy and oppressing the poor. It shows contempt for their maker. Proverbs 19 says, kindness to the poor is like lending to God. Proverbs 21 says, whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered. And how about this one? Proverbs 29 says, the righteous care about the poor. Yes, the righteous, the upright, the real follower of Jesus care. Are you getting the point? Speaking of Jesus, he also left us with some striking words regarding taking care of the needy. In Matthew 25, verse 40, he said, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me. In Luke 14, verses 12 through 14, he said, when you guys give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends or your relatives, your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back and repay you. Instead, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. In other words, what does it matter when you have a dinner party and you invite all your peeps and you guys hang out and do life while the poor are starving to death? Lastly, in James 2, verses 15 through 17, James writes, suppose you see a brother or sister who has no food, has no clothing, and you say goodbye, have a good day, stay warm, and eat well, but you don't give that person any food or clothing. I mean, what good does that do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. In other words, our lazy, fat church in America says that we have faith. We call ourselves a Christian nation, yet you can't even tell. We are the laughing stock around the world if we're being completely honest. Here's the truth. We as people of God are called to love our brothers and sisters around the world. Sadly, we have become so desensitized and entitled here in the West. There truly is a sense of entitlement in the West. We expect to have a life at least as good as our parents, if not something better. Because we live in a wealthy country that gives us the freedom to achieve whatever we desire, we can easily forget that this is not the normal way of life in the world. Over a third of the world lives on $2 a day, an amount most of us would think nothing of spending on a snack or a soft drink. I mean, these blessings of our life can easily turn into snares of Satan. He delights in taking what God intended for good and twisting it to do something that turns us away and absolutely distracts us from God. My friends, take a look at the blessings. The house, the car, the unlimited food, the job, the clothes, the medical care. I mean, when was the last time that we actually said thank you for all of these entitlements? I mean, really? I mean, don't we just assume that those things are going to be here tomorrow? We need to adopt an attitude of gratitude for these blessings. And after that, think about sharing them with the dying world around us. We in America, in this Western church, have an enormous responsibility to wisely choose how we spend our resources. As Jesus said, much will be expected from those who have been entrusted with great blessings. So will you join me in looking at our hearts and identifying areas where we need to loosen our grips? We must have our hands open at all times. We can't hold on to earthly stuff. We can't hold on to earthly wealth and resources. As soon as it comes to us, we must be willing to share it. Will you join me in letting go of our selfish desires and our selfish pursuits to share with the world around you? I mean, will you join me in just opening our eyes to the needs around us? I mean, look to the left, look to the right. You don't have to look far to see it. So will you love your brothers and sisters today?